Police have entered a sprawling bungalow, 81 Richmond Road. It was a tastefully designed architecture surrounded by lush green trees. Then they started digging, and the neatly made courtyard revealed a wooden box. The scene must have been horrifying. Digging a place, finding a wooden box, the stench of death and decay, and then finding her. The skeletal remains of a woman buried under the weight of her own wealth. And the fact that chills me the most is that there were scratch marks inside the lid of the box, which means she was alive when she was buried. Maybe she was unconscious, but definitely alive. She must have struggled, trying to claw her way out of that box. Can you imagine the terror? Buried alive in the dark, trapped in a box, knowing you are going to die. However much you try, you cannot come out. The soil has been filled and the earth has been leveled over your grave. Your throat is dry with fear, your heart drumming in your chest, and you are gasping for air. I don't mean to scare you. I'm just trying to picture what must have been the last moments of Shakereh Khalili. Hi, I'm Shanchari, a bored college student and the host of the Blue Devil podcast. For today's case, let me paint a picture for you. Bangalore, early 90s. A place of lush gardens, old money, and quiet elegance. Before the IT boom transformed this city into a concrete jungle, Bangalore was serene. The roads were empty and life moved slowly. Our story begins not in the shadowy lanes of a crime riddled neighborhood, but in the shimmering, lavish world of Bangalore's elite. Shakereh Khalili was just not any socialite. She was a woman who belonged from a family steeped with history and wealth. Born after 12 days of India's independence on 27th August 1947, little Shakereh was the granddaughter of the Diwan of erstwhile Mysore state. She grew up in an aristocratic household with an opulent lifestyle and with a family name that meant influence and privilege. She completed her education in Singapore. If you happen to visit Singapore, go and see the Capitol Theatre. Shakereh's father opened this theatre, which was Singapore's first movie theatre. After returning to India, she became the eye apple of all eligible bachelors of Mysore. Every man wanted to marry her. She was beautiful, educated, and had a quiet air of confidence about her. Her height and sharp facial features gave her a very high-class look. While researching for this case, when I looked up her photos, I was stunned. The very first thought in my head was, she is gorgeous. I have uploaded all the photos related to this case on Instagram at the Blue Devil podcast. In 1965, at just 18, young Shakereh married a brilliant and dashing Akbar Khalili, Shakereh's first cousin. Smart, handsome, and avid reader, he was considered one of the best tennis players in southern India. But instead of a flourishing tennis career, he chose to join the Indian Foreign Services. He went on to serve in various positions in Delhi, Baghdad, Colombo, Paris, and Amman. He was the Indian High Commissioner to Australia. His list of achievements is a long one, so I'll stop here. Shakereh accompanied Akbar in most of his tours. They had 4 daughters together: Rehane, Saba, Zibunde, and Ismat. Shakereh loved her daughters, but secretly she desired a son. And after having four daughters, the chances of having a son were bleak. Also, Akbar's frequent absence was causing a rift between the couple. They often quarreled. In 1982, while visiting the royal family of Rampur, the couple met an interesting man. And I say quote unquote interesting with a lot of skepticism. He was Swami Shraddhanand, who managed the taxes and property matters on behalf of the Rampur royal family. He was a short, stocky man with a rough voice. He wasn't exactly Shah Rukh Khan, but he had a certain magnetism. He was very good with words. Shraddhanand offered to come to Bangalore to help them with the property matters. Very soon, Akbar had to leave again. He was appointed as the Indian ambassador to Iran. It was a time of the Iranian Revolution. Iran was going through turmoil. The political situation was very unstable. So Shakereh decided to stay back in India. While Akbar was gone, Shakereh and Shraddhanand lived together in her Bangalore residence. Slowly and shrewdly, Shraddhanand managed to wiggle his way into her life. He began to isolate her from her friends, family, and ultimately her husband. He started to take over her life. First, it was spiritual guidance, then a bit of financial advice, and before you know it, Shakereh was under his spell. She was absolutely charmed by this man. After returning to India in 1985, Akbar was in for a nasty surprise. Shakereh asked for a divorce. He refused, of course, but she was adamant. She then went to a mosque in Madras and pronounced herself single. Her daughters were horrified at her decision. They relocated to Italy to live with their father. Just after 6 months of the divorce, Shakereh tied the knot with Shraddhanand. Talk about a hasty decision. What was the hurry? If she had waited a bit longer, she might have realized what a cunning, deceitful, and blood-sucking leech Shraddhanand truly was. According to Shraddhanand, Shakereh was attracted to him and wanted to marry him. He promised her to give her a son by using his great tantric powers. Am I even surprised? He is, after all, a Swami with great tantric powers. Of course, he can control his X and Y chromosomes. What's the big deal? It is hard to believe that a woman of such beauty and high stature was swayed by such an ordinary man. To put it simply, Shakereh was rich and beautiful, and Shraddhanand was neither of those. And on top of it, he was not much educated either. It was a time when social class and wealth mattered a lot. She went against her family to marry him. She shunned her mother, Gauhar Taj Begum Namazi, who was against this marriage. Her family threatened to disinherit her, but she did not care. After marriage, Shakereh sold some of her prime land and the couple went on a world tour, traveling first class and staying in 7-star hotels. It was a dream come true for Shraddhanand, who came from a very ordinary household. His father was a school teacher in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. He did not complete his education, dropped out of school, and ran away from home. He changed his name from Murali Manohar Mishra to Swami Shraddhanand. Being able to marry Shakereh was like winning lottery for him. She gave him general power of attorney over her properties and also made him double account holder in all her accounts and lockers. It was easy to manipulate her. At times, Shraddhanand used to sit at Shakereh's feet and pretended to be devoted to her. Every morning at 10, he would bring her tea and newspaper to her bed. Everything was going according to his plan. She was completely alone. But fate brought a twist to the story after Shakereh accidentally bumped into one of her daughters, Sabah, at the New Delhi airport. She felt guilty about having abandoned her daughters and was eager to rekindle the relationship. She promised to pay for Sabah's further studies in London. As expected, Shraddhanand objected to all of this. He feared that he would lose control over Shakereh. Her housemate Josephine mentioned the couple fighting over the daughters in 1991. Shakereh slapped him and even threatened to throw him out. She even wrote to the State Bank of India, Queen's Road branch, asking them to remove his name from the joint accounts. She called Sabah every day. They talked, laughed, and finally they were coming close again. But one day, the calls stopped abruptly. Sabah recalls, quote, "When I called her to find out how she was, only Swamiji was there. He said, 'Jan, your mother has gone to Surat to attend a wedding.' The next time I called, a few days later, said she had gone to Hyderabad. And so it went on." Unquote. When Sabah started insisting that she must talk to her mother on telephone, Shraddhanand told her that her mother was pregnant again. Quote, "He told me that my mother thought that talking to any of us might bring her bad luck, so he could only meet her after she had delivered her baby. I rushed to Bangalore to meet her anyway, but she was not there. He told me she was in Roosevelt Hospital in New York. I used my contacts to find out that she was not there. When I confronted him with that information, he immediately acknowledged that he had deliberately misled me at her behest." Unquote. Sabah says she visited Bangalore and stayed in the house 3 or 4 more times over the next year, but could not find out any more information about her mother. Josephine heard Shraddhanand talking to Shakereh. He would dial fictitious numbers and would hand over the phone to Sabah. She would find the phone silent or hear just dial tone. Swamiji also said that Shakereh gave birth to a stillborn baby boy. Sabah also says, quote, "Many of my mother's good silk saris appear to be missing. I saw a lady wearing what looked like one of my mother's saris at a wedding being performed by Swamiji some months ago. By then, I had started going to places that I had heard he would be in, just to try and find out more." Unquote. Sabah says that she gave Shraddhanand 2 saris and a birthday card for her mother in August 1992. Quote, "When I visited the house again some months later, one of the saris was hanging in her wardrobe, looking slightly soiled, and my card was on the display. Swamiji said that he had given the package to my mother, who was in London, but had brought the card back with him because he had liked the sentiments in them so much. She had used one of the 2 saris and sent it back, and was still wearing the other one." Unquote. To the neighbors, Shraddhanand used to say that Shakereh was on vacation. Hearing all of this, Sabah was very suspicious. In 1992, she filed a habeas corpus at Ashoknagar police station. Swamiji had already filed for an anticipatory bail, so the police couldn't arrest him without solid evidence. Also, Shakereh was alive on paper. In 1991, he floated a company called Shakereh Shraddhanand Private Limited. The records show that Shakereh was an active partner. For 3 years, the police investigated and interrogated Josephine, another manservant, and Swamiji himself. One day, a constable of the crime branch took the manservant out for a drink, and the man boasted about having successfully blackmailed Swamiji for 3 years for helping him eliminate his rich wife. Finally, Shraddhanand was cornered, and he confessed. When Shakereh started talking to Sabah once again, he knew his time was almost up. He had to act fast. He devised an evil plan. He convinced Shakereh to build an underground tank in the courtyard. She was to pay for the construction. Workers were called. An 8 feet deep pit was dug. Shakereh literally paid for her grave. Swamiji also commissioned the construction of a wooden box with wheels on the pretext of exporting some antique furnitures. On April 28, 1991, Swamiji brought Shakereh her morning tea with a special mix of powdered sedatives. When she fell asleep, he asked the servants to take the day off. He then dragged the mattress on which she lay through a hole in the wall and pushed it into the long wooden box which had already been placed in the pit, and shoveled some mud over the box. Next day, when the workers came, he asked them to cover the surface with tiles. He also kept a potted tulsi plant on top of it. What an evil fellow! Shraddhanand started living the high life in her house. throwing lavish parties every evening at 81 Richmond Road, and everybody danced on the beautifully tiled courtyard. Yes, the same courtyard under which Shakereh was buried. He was spending her money like water. In 1994, Swamiji led the Karnataka police to the skeletal remains of Shakereh. When the box was opened, everybody was horrified. Inside the box, there were scratch marks. Trace of wooden chips was found under her nails. One of her hands was tightly holding on the mattress. It was evident that Shakereh was simply unconscious and not dead when she was buried. Her mother identified her by the ring she was wearing. Josephine recognized her old nightgown. Trial began in 1997. It was a landmark case, as it was the first time that the exhumation process was recorded on video and the DNA test was done and accepted as evidence. 8 years later, on May 21, 2005, the Sessions Court sentenced Shraddhanand with capital punishment by hanging. Shraddhanand did not show any emotion, just simply said, quote, "This is just the beginning of a long battle." On September 12, 2005, the High Court called this the rarest of rare case and upheld the Session Court's decision of capital punishment. Later on, in 2008, Swamiji filed another appeal where his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. In 2017, now in his 80s, Shraddhanand approached the High Court to ask for his right to inherit his wife's inheritance. And interestingly, there was no law that barred any person from inheriting the property of the person they murdered. But citing a 1924 judgment of the Privy Council in the Kenchava Kom Sanelappa Huzamane versus Girimalappa Chanappa Somsagar case, the High Court disqualified him from inheriting the property of his victim. In 2022, the 83-year-old convict appealed to Supreme Court to release him. His counsel pleaded, saying that after spending 29 years in prison with no parole, he was suffering from various ailments. He should be released, just like Rajiv Gandhi's assassins were set free. These days, Swami Shraddhanand spends his time doing what he does best, playing a guru, a spiritual leader giving spiritual advice to other fellow convicts. He is currently serving his sentence in Sagar Central Prison in Madhya Pradesh. Isn't it ironic that he is imprisoned in the same place from where he once ran away? Well, that's it for today's case. For more sleepless nights and questioning your life choices, do tune in next Thursday at 10 p.m. sharp. Till then, sayonara.